So, if you're an Apple user, you know this feeling, right? You're holding this beautiful piece of hardware. It's a miracle of engineering. And yet, something just feels a little off. There's this weird paradox between the device in your hand and the actual experience of using it. Okay, let's get into this because it really gets to the core of what Apple is today.
I mean, think about it. You unbox that brand new Mac with the mind-blowing M series chip, or maybe the latest iPhone with a camera that's just unbelievable. The hardware is at its absolute peak. But then you start using it, and that little voice in your head goes, "Is this it?" If that sounds familiar, trust me, you are not alone. So what's going on here? Well, a lot of people are starting to ask the same question, sometimes out loud. Has Apple's software, especially macOS, just gotten kind of boring? It's this growing feeling that while the hardware is making these massive leaps, the software is just sort of shuffling along. And look, this isn't just some random hot take. This quote comes from a real discussion online, and it perfectly captures what so many people are feeling. Those big, exciting, yearly software updates have started to feel a lot less revolutionary and, well, a lot more like just getting a new wallpaper and a couple of minor tweaks.
And really, this is the heart of the problem, isn't it? On one side, you have peak performance. These M-series chips are just incredible. On the other side, peak frustration. We're talking buggy window management, a user interface that feels inconsistent, and don't even get me started on the mysterious system data that eats up all your storage. It's like having a supercar where the radio only gets one station.
But here's where it gets interesting. It looks like Apple has been listening. They seem to know that things have gotten a bit still, and from what we're hearing, they're gearing up for what could be their biggest software and hardware refresh in more than a decade. We're not talking about next year. We're talking about a plan for the next 5 years.
And the star of the show is this rumored new design system, supposedly codenamed Liquid Glass. Now, this is not just a fresh coat of paint. We're talking about the biggest visual redesign since iOS 7, completely changed how our iPhones look and feel. The idea is to create this seamless, fluid, modern experience across every single Apple device.
So this new look, it's basically the foundation for a huge software blitz planned for 2026. Everything's on the table. A revamped macOS, a much smarter iOS with something called Apple Intelligence, an iPad windowing system that might finally make sense. They are aiming to overhaul the whole ecosystem from the ground up.
And the hardware plan is just as wild. And it's all about one thing: augmented reality. Yeah, a chip upgrade for the Vision Pro is coming, but the real show starts in 2027 with Apple glasses and a cheaper Vision Air. It's all building towards a monster second-gen Vision Pro in 2028. This isn't just about selling new gadgets. This is a full-on play to own the future of AR.
Okay, so we've got this incredible vision of the future, but to really get why today feels a little stuck, we got to pull back the curtain on how this stuff actually gets made. We need to take a look at the massive, intricate, almost unbelievably complex machine that builds Apple.
You know, we all see assembled in China on the back of our phones, but that is literally the very last step in a wild global dance. A single iPhone has over 200 components, and they come from dozens of countries and factories all over the world. It is a logistical masterpiece, for sure, but it also creates this immense hidden complexity.
So if you look at the numbers from 2023, yeah, about 45% of their supplier factories are in China. But, and this is a big but, you can already see them spreading their bets. With a growing number of factories popping up across Southeast Asia and India, that map is changing all the time. Okay, and this is the real secret sauce here. We get so hung up on where the factory is located, but the real question, the one that tells the true story, is who actually owns it. A factory can be in China without being a Chinese-owned company. Let's take printed circuit boards, PCBs, the nervous system of your phone. More than half the factories that make them are located in China. But get this, a whopping 88% of the companies that own those factories are actually Taiwanese. Only 3% are Chinese-owned. It's a whole other layer to the story. And you can see a pattern here, right? The really high-value, super complex stuff, like the semiconductors, the advanced displays, that's still dominated by companies from the US, Taiwan, and South Korea. Now, Chinese-owned firms have made huge progress, but it's mostly been in the lower margin areas like precision manufacturing or packaging and printing. All right, so let's put it all together. On one hand, you've got this amazing, ambitious vision for the future. On the other, you've got this ridiculously complex global machine that has to build it.
So how do these two things collide to create the feeling you have when you use your Mac right now? Well, it brings us right back to our paradox.
So here's the Apple paradox in 3 steps. Step 1, a grand vision. They want to remake everything with AI and augmented reality. Step 2, a giant global machine. This insanely complex supply chain is needed to even attempt it. And that leads to step 3, an imperfect reality. The friction between that massive ambition and that massive complexity, well, that's where the bugs, the delays, and our frustration come from. And if you want a perfect real-world example of this, look no further than Siri. We all know our iPhones have the horsepower for some serious AI. So why is Siri's big Apple Intelligence makeover reportedly pushed all the way to 2026? That's the paradox in action. You can't juggle a global supply chain and plan a 5-year software roadmap without some things getting delayed. And hey, if you're ever thinking, why don't they just move all the factories and simplify things? Just look at this number. For a $1,000 phone, the final step, just putting it all together, costs about $10. That's it. It's a tiny piece of the pie. The real value and the real mind-bending complexity is in that huge network of suppliers making all those high-tech parts. Which kind of leaves us with one last big question to chew on. We always think about the tech giants fighting each other, Apple versus Samsung or Apple versus Google. But maybe, just maybe, Apple's biggest and toughest competitor isn't another company at all. Maybe it's just the monumental challenge of managing the sheer crushing weight of its own ambition.